Hi, this is Kevin Watts, founder of Lexus Enthusiast, and this is the 2022 Lexus LX 600F Sport. Okay, let's talk the basics, raw facts. The LX is powered by a twin-turbo V6, 409 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque. Up front, double wishbone suspension, and then in the back is a 4-link axle, primarily for off-roading. This is a F-Sport package, which means it's got the Torsen limited slip differential, which allows for precise power to each wheel. Beyond that, it also has the adaptive variable suspension, which allows for, multiple levels of suspension dampening. So you can go really soft, really hard. And then there's a mixed bag of cosmetic changes as compared to the standard LX.
Any discussion on the LX has to start with the front grille. The F Sport goes full mesh, which is a better look to me than the shredder style of the standard LX. Outside of the grille, the design is tempered and reasonable, though so far I don't care for the way Lexus has started spelling out their name across the rear hatch. Inside is circuit red leather and aluminum trim, and this is where the F Sport package falls short for me. I prefer my flagship luxury interiors with muted colors and wood. The tech inside is a major improvement over the remote touch days, with not one but 2 touchscreens. There may be a lack of cohesion, but it's all functional and easily accessible.
Now, I don't want to talk too much about the technical details, mostly because a lot of them are, around the off-roading. And to be honest, the closest I'm going to get to off-roading is, driving up and down my gravel driveway. I have to call out this global architecture F platform, the GAF platform. The Toyota's developed for the Sequoia, the Tundra, the Land Cruiser, and the LX. They shaved off 441 pounds off of that platform. And the result is astounding, really, in comparison to the previous generation. It's a much more solid drive. And then once I adapted to the body-on-frame feel, there's really nothing that can rattle this thing. I find the steering to be precise and sharp, and also cornering is much better than I would have ever expected. I really don't have any complaints about this twin-turbo V6. I haven't wanted for acceleration or speed at any point while I've been driving. A talking point with any turbo is lag, but I find it to be, on the whole, very smooth, very linear, and it doesn't really creep up. The lag is only there if you're stomping on the gas, which really, in something like this, you really shouldn't be doing too often. I did cycle through all the different drive modes. There's Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport, and Sport Plus, and they all have varying levels of steering feel and suspension dampening. I really just gravitated towards the Comfort, I guess because I'm an old man now. Lexus has been talking up this idea of a driving signature, sort of this baseline unified driving experience that goes throughout the entire lineup. And I think that the LX has really benefited from that focus. I really have enjoyed driving it, which is something I would never have said about the previous generation LX. Like I said, the steering is just very sharp, very precise. You never feel any wallow or mushiness in corners or just driving. And it's a great improvement over the last model. In terms of fuel economy, I'm averaging about 14 liters per 100 kilometers. That equals about 16 miles per gallon. Now you always really want better fuel economy, but that's really not too bad considering. I came into this test drive really focused on how the LX compares against its competitors like the Cadillac Escalade or the Mercedes GLS. And to be frank, it's not a great comparison for the LX. And the reason I think for that is the insistence by Lexus on maintaining what they call the golden ratio. And what that is Lexus engineers have developed what they believe is a wheelbase that is the perfect balance between on-road smoothness and off-road capability. But what it really means in practical terms is that the LX is unable to get any more space inside without screwing up this ratio. And that means that while the front seats and the first rear row are spacious, more than enough room, the final row is really an emergency only situation, only good for kids. But, you know, over the week that I've been driving, as I've gotten into the mindset of what it would be like to drive the LX on a day-to-day basis, I gotta say this thing is just a real vibe. Like, you have the trappings of a flagship luxury vehicle. There's this bubble that surrounds you that doesn't allow the outside to come into the cabin. So you don't really hear a lot of road noise. You don't really hear a lot of anything. The ride is smooth. It absorbs anything you throw at it. But that's what you expect with the flagship vehicle at this price point. And that's not really the vibe that I'm talking about. Instead, what I'm talking about is that the bubble, this flagship luxury bubble, extends from inside the vehicle to the outside world. And by that I mean there really isn't anything that you can throw at the LX while you're driving that is not going to be able to handle and provide you with like a first class experience while you're doing it. Now, this is purely theoretical. Like I said, I'm not driving this off-road. I have no intention. And I'm not really just talking about that sort of recreational trail driving or, you know, anything just for fun. I'm more talking about the idea that no matter what situation you get into, the LX is going to be able to handle it. So whether it's severe weather or a real emergency or anything really that you can picture, the LX is going to be able to get you from point A to point B. And I think that's the story of this vehicle. I think that's the real appeal of the LX. There's only two other vehicles that I can really think of that could approximate that feeling, and that's the Range Rover and the Mercedes G-Class. And both of those vehicles have a higher starting price than the LX. Now, the LX doesn't excel as a family hauler. There are better vehicles out there for that task, but I don't see that as a flaw of the product. I see it as a strategic issue and a hole in the Lexus lineup that the LX has been forced to fill. This vehicle just radiates security and safety, and there's a lot of people out there with where that vibe, that feeling is more important than a third row. And really, like I've been saying it this week as I've discussed the vehicle, I really see the LX as, obviously it's a vehicle for people that are wealthy, but it's also a vehicle for people that are kind of afraid of a zombie apocalypse. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this review. My name's Kevin Watts. Peace and love.